Are you overwhelmed and spending too much time trying to write a literature review or even to review the literature to learn your field? In this video, I want to introduce you to 3 different ways that you can ethically use AI in order to write a literature review or review the literature for your research field. To demonstrate the 3 different ways that you can use AI, I'm going to use Consensus. And I want to thank Consensus for sponsoring this video and allowing me to make this type of content for you guys. The first way is going to be asking questions and identifying the major themes within your research field. So within Consensus, I can start by asking a yes or no question. So I'm going to start by asking, can steroid isomers be separated by ion mobility? Now, something that Consensus does that's really unique to Consensus is this consensus meter, which basically tells you whenever you ask a yes or no question, how many papers lean yes, how many papers lean no, and how many say it's possibly, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. And so what we can see is that this uses 12 papers and that 100% of the papers lean yes, saying that yes, steroids can be separated by ion mobility. And so underneath it, it gives us basically a summarization. It gives us an introduction, some of the key insights here, and a conclusion here. Now I'm going to take just a minute to walk you through the rest of Consensus so that you know that this exists for all of the future ways we're going to use it. Underneath our pro analysis, we can come down and we can see the related searches. We can go ahead and look at different searches, but then we also get the references used in the pro analysis. So you can see we have one here, and if we scroll down, this is the one that it was referring to. Up in this top corner, if it's a yes or no question, it's going to tell you the yes, no, unknown, all of those things. It gives you a 1-sentence summary of this article, and then the bibliographic information like journal, authors, the number of citations, and the year it was published. There are also several different tags that it uses. So this one is highly cited. You also have some that say it's a literature review or it's a randomized control trial. All of this gives you information about this paper and lets you know how you can use it in the future. If you look at the study snapshot, it will actually pull out some of the information from the paper and present it. So there's 7 different attributes it can pull out. For this paper, Consensus was able to find the methods, the outcomes, and the results, seeing that the result is derivatized steroid isomers were separated with the peak-to-peak resolutions of 0.77 to 1.08 using TWIMS and MAS. There are also 3 ways that you can use this paper. So one, you can save it, and so you can save it to your list. So I'm going to go ahead and save it to my steroids and ion mobility list. Now it's going to be available for me in the future if I want to use it within Consensus. I can also cite it. So by citing it, I have the APA, MLA, Chicago, and Harvard citations that I can go ahead and copy and paste into whatever I'm doing. And then I also have the bib text. So if I want to use it with something like Zotero or FRI, I can copy the bib text and then go ahead and import it into the reference manager that I would like to use. And then finally, I can share it. This will automatically copy the link. The answer up here is letting me know how it is trying to answer my question. So this one, TWIMS successfully separates steroids as dimeric adducts of group 1 metals. This one, it separates derivatized steroids. So it's telling me the different ways that it can help separate steroids to answer my question. So ultimately, using this, I can get a good idea of what literature is out there, and I can get a good idea of the themes that are emerging within this literature. This technique works really well whether you're just reviewing the literature to try and understand what's available, or if you're actually writing a literature review. However, the next 2 techniques are going to focus primarily on writing a literature review. The second technique is actually having AI develop a storyline for you and write an outline for you. So within this prompt, we're asking for 2 things. The first thing is we're asking it to write a 1-sentence storyline in plain English. I really recommend if you're ever writing any paper, especially a literature review, you should be able to say what your entire storyline is within about 1 to 2 sentences. When you have a story, it's far easier to write and you're going to write a far better literature review. That's what I'm asking AI for. So I'm asking it to write this 1-sentence storyline for a literature review on steroid analysis by ion mobility that walks through the story of the literature. Then I wanted to create a bullet outline for this literature review. So not only is it telling me what my storyline is, but also what is the outline that I should follow. And this is one place where consensus really goes beyond a lot of its competitors. A lot of its competitors don't have a analysis section, a summary section that changes based off the question that you're asking. It just gives you a summary of the top 4, top 8 papers. This, you can actually change this with your prompts, which I really like. So this is using the top 10 papers based on relevancy. So this is obviously not going to be, you just take this and run with it, and this is your entire literature review. You need to go and find the additional papers, but this can give you a really, really good starting point. From the pro analysis, it gives me first my storyline. Ion mobility spectrometry has emerged as a powerful tool for the analysis of steroids, offering enhanced separation and identification capabilities that address the limitations of traditional methods, paving the road for its application in medical, forensic, and sports doping contexts. So if I was developing the storyline, I would put in a little bit more specifics, but ultimately we're saying ion mobility is now a powerful tool that can enhance the separation and identification. So that means that in my literature review, I need to answer, how is it enhancing the separation? How is it enhancing identification? And what are the limitations of traditional methods? So just from the storyline, I can already start crafting the outline in my own head and then paving its way for the application. So then we might want to talk about, we might have an entire section dedicated to application of ion mobility analysis of steroids for these different things. So then we get to the bullet outline. So this is a really quick outline. It's not giving me paragraphs for each one. It's a quick outline, and it has the introduction. So it starts with the importance of steroid analysis. Always start with your importance. So I love this about this. Whether you're writing an article, research article, review article, or giving a presentation, you want to start with, why should I care about your field? What is the importance of it? So we're going to start with that. It gives me the references there. And then it's going to talk about the limitations of analytical methods like chromatography and nuclear magnetic resonance. I would probably add a bullet point in here talking about like background of steroids, like why should we care about steroids? But that's exactly what I would do next. And then I would go into my ion mobility spectrometry overview, talking about the basic principles of IMS and the advantages. I love that. And then we're doing IMS coupled with liquid chromatography. And so we have enhanced signal to noise ratios, applications. So yeah, these are all things that, this is actually, I think, how I wrote my literature review on this topic. Then we have standalone IMS analysis, so use of derivatization and formation of multimers, and potential for high sensitivity and rapid analysis. So this is actually how I would do it. I would have a derivatization sub-theme, and then I would have a multimer or metal adduction sub-theme. Then this adds two more. So this has collision cross-section database. So that is a major part. This gets into the identification component of that storyline. How is IMS enhancing an identification? And you can see right here the role of CCS in steroid identification, and then applications in medical and forensic fields. And so it actually pulls in one that's a comprehensive steroid assay for non-targeted analysis. So use of it in clinical diagnostics and potential for routine for anabolic. So yeah, this is actually a really nice storyline. So basically, if we look through the storyline, we're going introduction, background information. How has IMS been used within the existing tools that we say aren't good enough? How has it been used alone? And then from how it's been used alone, how does it aid in the identification of these steroids? And then finally, we're really going from like kind of more specific to broadening out, right? How is it used and actually applied within the fields? And then we're talking about challenges and future directions and conclusions. So overall, this is a pretty good initial outline for me to pursue, and it gives me, you know, kind of the top 10 papers. Yeah, so this is based off the top 10 papers. It gives me the top 10 papers that helped create this outline. Now I can take this, now that I have my themes, I can go look for articles that fit each of these themes and make sure I'm really covering all of my bases there. And then again, we always have all of these articles down below that we can save, cite, any of those things. The final method that I would use something like AI for is something that I think a lot of people struggle with, and that's how to actually synthesize the research together. If you're writing a literature review, your conclusion should actually be you synthesizing the research together. And this is something that a lot of researchers can struggle with. We're really good at summarizing, we're not as good at synthesizing. I think using consensus to give us examples for how we can synthesize research together. So what I'm writing is, please write a conclusion for a literature review on steroid analysis by eye mobility spectrometry that elegantly synthesizes the research together. So in this conclusion, it gives us about 5 paragraphs long. It really follows that outline that we saw in the last technique that I showed you. And so within these paragraphs, what you can see is that it's not specifically saying like this paper did this or this paper did this. It's trying to figure out what are the overall conclusions that come from this body of literature. I really like this conclusion as a really good example of synthesis. How do we pull all the literature together and say these are the main things? So in conclusion, the integration of eye mobility spectrometry with LCMS represents a significant advancement in steroid analysis. That's kind of an impact. This approach not only improves the separation and identification of steroid isomers, but also enhances sensitivity and specificity of the analysis, making it a valuable tool for clinical diagnosis, forensic investigations, and anti-doping efforts. That's actually a really good synthesis, right? We're saying, hey, it does these 2 things that we expected it to do, but it's also been shown to do these other things that we didn't quite expect it to do. And then future research, and you should always have future research at the end of your literature review. So future research should focus on further optimizing these techniques and expanding their application to a broader range of biological matrices and steroid compounds. That's a pretty common future research that people are suggesting if you read these papers. So overall, would I copy and paste this into my conclusion for my literature review? No. But when you're sitting here going, what is synthesis? How do I synthesize this together? How do I write a good conclusion? Having AI write examples of conclusions and how it would synthesize it together can give you a really good example for how you can move forward. And using that storyline that you used in the second technique with some examples of synthesis can help you to write a better conclusion and be more likely to get accepted into a journal. With using these 3 techniques, the next action steps that I would do to write your article is to take the outline and flesh it out from the second technique. And then I would go to databases, something like Research Rabbit, any of those things, and find all of the available literature. One really nice thing about Consensus is you can actually download both a CSV of these results and an RIS. So you can take this RIS and directly upload it into something like Research Rabbit and find all of the literature relevant to what it is you're trying to study. So I would then find all of the literature. You can then revisit the outline and add in more as you need to, and then you can go ahead and write your literature review. If you're ready to get started using Consensus, I will have a link in the description below that you can use. And if you want to move forward with writing your literature review and you're a little confused on how to take it from the outline to actually writing your literature review, I will put up a video here on how to write a literature review.